And Congress obviously also has a oversight responsibility, and under our constitutional system, perhaps even more important because they're a check against executive abuse. How would you rate the congressional oversight, and do you think they have the tools necessary to do their jobs in this environment?
Oh, I definitely would give the Congress an F, and I would blame the Congress itself for most of that poor grade, but certainly the agencies have taken advantage of the Congress's willingness to have this happen. And to give you an example of, I mean, this has been going on for years. I guess about 8 years ago, I got a call from somebody on the Hill who, and this wasn't even in the intelligence community, but it's even more so with that community. And he said, I'm writing this Freedom of Information Act request for my boss, and I wanted your advice. And I said, but you're in the Congress. Why are you writing a FOIA is the term for a Freedom of Information Act request. They didn't understand that the Congress didn't need to do that. But then what happened was the agency started taking advantage of this perception that the Congress was allowing to sort of make it harder for the Congress to just demand information because it is the Congress, which is Article 1 in the Constitution. And we've now seen it become absolutely the norm that the Congress accepts that they don't have the authority to just demand information by the end of the work week. And so when you have the case of the intelligence community, this is sort of what would the term be, what I'd call it, the sort of almost deliberate incompetence in a way for when it comes to oversight. In the intelligence community, what we're seeing is that the committees are just really so complacent when it comes to demanding information that they've become almost meaningless.
And do you have an example of that?
Well, I mean, certainly some of the great examples are what are happening now. As I've mentioned before, we at POGO from the outside rarely get insights into what is happening in the intelligence community. But when you have, for example, the Snowden disclosures and you learn what has been happening, and then you learn that actually the committees were told about it, but they were told in such a way that they didn't necessarily quite understand what they were being told, but they accepted that they didn't understand it. That to me is really alarming, where they've become more protective of the agency than seeing themselves as a check on those activities. But then what's really become interesting is what happened with the CIA and the Senate Intelligence Committee, where there was actually serious oversight that was being conducted by the staff in the Senate Intelligence Committee, and they deserve a lot of credit for what they were doing. But the CIA then sort of turned on them and actually suggested that they were committing misconduct in their oversight role. So this is sort of the first spark I've seen in a while that there's a real hope that the committees might start to be a little bit more aggressive than they have been in their oversight.
When the House and Senate Intelligence Committees were created, the role that was foreseen for them was that they would educate the rest of Congress about what was going on in a way that protected the national security secrets. How have they done about educating the rest of Congress about the activities of the intelligence community, or the public for that matter?
Right. Well, certainly the culture has become one of just trust us, we know what we're doing, we'll handle it, by the committees, for the rest of the Congress, let alone the public. And when it comes to the NSA surveillance activities, the defense that the House committee has had was, well, we notified the rest of the Congress that they could come to us and look at this not very well explained provision of what was happening with surveillance, but the rest of the Congress didn't really understand the significance of what they were being told, and so they largely ignored it. That was that was half-hearted at its best, I think, on the part of the House Intelligence Committee. Mm. But, you know, Washington is often, it's a city where having information is sometimes more important than power. I mean, it is power, more important than money. And what you see in that world is really such an aggressive effort to maintain secrets that no one else knows. It makes you more important, and that's, I think, one of our biggest problems.